Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Batra, page 29a, part 2, with the words Ella Amar Rava. Rather, Rava said a different reason. A person is careful with his document detailing his purchase of land for the first year after the purchase, as he is also careful for 2 and 3 years. For more time than that, he is not careful and might discard the document if no one has lodged a protest concerning his possession of the land. I don't think that's actually practically true. I mean, people are careful. They keep the deed for many years. I don't know why they're saying they wouldn't be careful after 2 or 3 years. Therefore, the sages ruled that after 3 years have passed, he can prove his ownership by means of presumptive ownership, in case it gets lost. I mean, it's not a bad thing to do that. But anyway, Abai said to him, if that is so, a protest that is lodged not in his presence should not be a valid protest. And if 3 years pass with no protest in his presence, presumptive ownership should be established even if there was a protest lodged before other people. This is because the one possessing the land can say to the claimant, if you had protested in my presence, I would have been careful with my document and would not have discarded it. Who discards their deed? I mean, the deeds to the land? Who in the world would discard their document? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. The Gemara explains this claim would not be accepted because the claimant can say to him, your friend has a friend, and your friend's friend has a friend. And the assumption is that that word of the protest reached you. Your friend has a friend. Chavra chavra, islay, chavra de chavra, chavra islay. I wonder what the gematria of that is. Your friend has a friend, and your friend's friend has a friend. Chavra chavra islay, v'chavra de chavra, chavra islay. That's a good one. Let's see. The gematria of that is 2015. What were you doing in 2015? I know where I was. Yeah. 2015. That means your friend's friend has a friend. 2015. Giltainug. 2015. Two bus. Rav Huna says, Shalosh Talim Shamu Shukaklan Ritzufois, Michael Mashmilon. Rav Huna says 3 years that the sages said are required to establish the presumption of ownership is referring to when he worked and profited from the field in consecutive years. The Gemara asks, what is Rav Huna teaching us with this statement? We learned this in the Mishnah. Their presumption of ownership is established by use for a duration of 3 years from day to day. The Gemara answers, lest you say that the phrase from day to day serves to exclude partial years and to teach that each of the 3 years must be full and actually even scattered, in other words, non-consecutive years are sufficient. Therefore, Rav Huna teaches us that the years must be consecutive. Rav Chama says, and Rav Huna concedes, with regard to, no, Rav Chama says, this is what he says, and Rav Huna concedes with regard to locations where they leave fields to lie fallow by planting in alternate years, that the 3 years combine despite not being consecutive, as that is the manner in which owners profit from the land. The Gemara asks, isn't it obvious that this is the halacha? The Gemara answers, no, it is necessary to state this with regard to locations where there are some people who leave the fields to lie fallow, and there are some people who do not leave the fields to lie fallow, and this man left the field to lie fallow, lest you say that the claimant can say to him, if it is so that the land is yours, you should have sown it. Therefore Rav Huna teaches us that the possessor can say to the claimant, I am not able to hire someone to guard one parcel of land within an entire field, and I acted like those who own other land in this location and let the field lie fallow. And alternatively, the possessor can say to the claimant, in this manner of farming, it is beneficial for me to farm, because the land produces more later, and I do not wish to plant it year after year and weaken the soil. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Cheskas Habatim. The Gemara clarifies Rav Huna's statement that the presumption of ownership can be established only by consecutive use. We learned in the Mishnah about the presumptive ownership of houses, but with regard to the use of houses, where the witness is attesting to its use, know who uses the house only in the day, but they do not know who uses the house in the night. How then can one establish the presumption of ownership in the case of a house? The possessor's use is not consecutive, as it is continually interrupted by the nights. Abaye said, who testifies about houses? Neighbors and neighbors. And neighbors know who is inside in the day and in the night. Rava said that there is another scenario in which one can bring witnesses with regard to the use of a house. This is such as when two people come and say, we rented the house from him and we lived in it for 3 years, in the day and in the night. This testimony substantiates that the house was used under the authority of the one who was attempting to prove that he had established the presumption of ownership. Rav Yamar said to Rav Ashi, how can their testimony be relied upon? These witnesses are biased in their testimony, because if they do not say this testimony that they rented the house from the possessor for 3 consecutive years, we say to them, go and give payment for the rental of the house to that one who is claiming ownership, as the one you paid has not established that he is the true owner. Rav Ashi said to him, low-level judges rule this way. In other words, only a court composed of ignorant judges would accept the testimony of the renters of the house in a case where they are biased in their testimony. Nevertheless, Rava's scenario is still possible, as we are not dealing with the case where they are holding the money for the payment for the rental of the house, and they are saying to the court, to whom shall we give it? Therefore, they are not biased in their testimony, because they will pay the same amount, regardless of who the actual owner is. The Gemara quotes a related statement. Mar Zutra said, and if the claimant claims and says, let two witnesses come to testify for the possessor that he lived in the house 3 years in the day and in the night, his claim is a legitimate claim.